Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. I think when we look at the factors that created this economic catastrophe here, I don't think anybody says there was a sole cause. I think most economists believe that one of the major causes, besides Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, one of the major causes was the Fed funds rate in Europe and here in the United States, the central banks setting a negative interest rate when adjusted for inflation for 4 years running. There's no way that that wouldn't cause a housing bubble. But the question about the involvement in Fannie and Freddie, purchasing subprime, purchasing Alt-A loans, purchasing instruments that otherwise would not maybe find ready buyers out there, that is unique, and that is a part of their role as government-sponsored enterprises, really, that they evolved into. And as I said, originally in '89, they wouldn't go near a lot of these practices, and especially wouldn't go near the idea of buying these things for their own portfolio. But then that process changed, and politics took over. What I wanted to ask about, and I'll mention a couple of other factors as well. I don't think anybody says it was solely Fannie and Freddie, but a number of economists worry about the amount of bullying of the market that went with CRA in terms of the direction of loans to be made. There's a lot of worrying about what we placed in statute in terms of the NRSROs, in terms of the credit rating agencies and the way in which we replaced by statute what otherwise would have been done by market discipline. And the implication there were that because these were government-sponsored or because the government was engaged in setting up these standards, that it removed market discipline from the equation. And that helped compound the problem. And this is the root of my question, and I wanted to ask this of Mr. Lockhart and Mr. Dickerson. I think one of the most telling statements of the GSE's impact on the entire mortgage market came, for me, from a former Freddie Mac employee who mentioned that the executives at the company understood that when they began purchasing junk mortgage-backed securities, as he called them, based on subprime and Alt-A mortgages, they were sending a clear message to the market that these were, in fact, safe investments. In other words, if the duopoly that controls most of the market is now going out and buying this from Countrywide, it's a message to the market that these have been analyzed as safe. As you know, prior to that time, Fannie Mae and Freddie were exclusively known for buying more conservative, conforming loans. So when they began purchasing junk mortgage-backed securities, it was a clear deviation from their prior endeavors. Do you believe the executives at Fannie and Freddie understood the message they were sending when they began to invest in junk mortgages, and especially at such a large scale?
Well, they were investing in these private label securities that had subprime, Alt-A, option arms, and other higher risk mortgages that were non-traditional mortgages. There's no doubt about it. They stayed in the AAA space. As it turned out, they and the rating agencies' models failed dramatically. Yes, they probably had some endorsement factor by buying them. There's no doubt about that. Whether the management realized it or not, I cannot speak for them. I can tell you, to pick up your other point, that they did get affordable housing gold credit from HUD for buying these securities, and they thought they were profitable, and they were buying them because they thought they were profitable, but it also did help them to get those credits.
And I wanted to go to something the Treasury Secretary mentioned. Former Secretary Paulson actually said this, and this has to do with the three objectives that he thought we should have in terms of a reformed GSE structure, and I'll ask Mr. Dickerson about this too. No ambiguity as to government backing. A clear means of managing the conflict between public support and private profit. And a strong regulatory oversight of the resulting institutions, taking politics out of the regulatory oversight function and allowing the regulators to actually do their job. Now, going forward, do you agree that these three objectives should be achieved, and what do we risk if we fail to meet that task in the future?
Well, I definitely agree with the 3 objectives, and I think I incorporated them in my 5 principles as well. It is extremely important to get it right. The ambiguity between public and private, the ambiguity between mission and safety and soundness help cause some of the problems we have today. So as we go forward, we're going to have to really concentrate on what I said were 5 principles, what he said were 3, to make sure that we can recreate the secondary mortgage market in this country in a safe and sound fashion. Chris, you want to?
Right, I would agree with that. Certainly, the need for strong regulatory oversight is going to be a need that we will need to continue, for sure.
Thank you very much, Mr.
No ambiguity
Chairman.
as far as the private-public.